Kale Steelcaster, senior runic priest to the newly founded Whitehammer clan, entered the grand hall to stand before his young king. My lord, the final runes of protection have been struck in the lower mining tunnels. Neraz Berrag is now fully defended. Excellent work, Kale, responded King Thongren Whitehammer. Now that our fortifications have been completed, we must turn our gaze outward as well. For Neraz Berrag to grow and prosper, we must know the land above and below. The rangers have told me of a small settlement of elves along the southern border of the lands we have claimed. It is called Port Ker'vyan. This settlement sits upon the shores of the Middle Sea, and could prove a worthy trading ally for our metals and gems. But my lord, the elder smith asked, surely the elves cannot be trusted. The ancient tales speak of their cowardice and intemperance. I understand your concerns, Kale, but we must attempt to forge new alliances in this strange land. The Council of Kings has honored us with the opportunity to forge a new Neraz in the Crimson Peaks. And to do that, we will need trade and alliances. And I would not discount the elves without cause. Yes, my king, the smith replied, bowing his head. What are your orders? You shall accompany a small contingent of our clan to go to the elves and speak to them upon my behalf. But who shall we send as ambassador, my lord? The Highborn Elves are rumored to be most concerned with status, and if so, only my queen would hold the authority to guarantee their notice. You are to take a force to guarantee her protection, and to impress the elves with our might. I wish for them to recognize us as equals, rather than supplicants for their attention. Yes, my lord. With your permission, I will also take Thane Gimrick. If we march with the banner of our clan before us, surely the elves will be in awe. Very well, Kale. Be about your work. And so did the runic priest assemble an appropriate diplomatic force to appeal to the elves of Port Ker'vyan. However, these elves did not know the ways of the Dwarven holds, and this sign of status and respect was seen as an assault on their lands. And the Highborn Elves would allow no such insult, so they mustered a force to drive away the apparent intruders. Hi everyone, Matiram here with the first narrative battle in our new narrative campaign, and it is going to be the Dwarven Holds versus the Highborn Elves in a 3,000 point narrative battle. Now we have put together a pretty interesting couple of lists designed to be exactly what the narrative sets up. My dwarves are here as a ambassadorial force, so no war machines or things of the like, and the Highborn Elves are essentially the first responders to threats to their land. So it was a pretty fun game. We kind of set up this to be sort of an outskirts area of Port Ker'vyan where the Highborn Elves control, and we'll go ahead and get into the deployment. Okay, before I get into the deployment in specific, I do want to make a note. Those of you who pay very close attention will actually notice that Michael's list is not legal. The Peacekeepers, he's limited to 15%. Because he wasn't paying attention to some of his units that count for both slots, most specifically the Sky Sloop he has later, he actually goes over that 15%. So there's a lot of shooting in this army, and it's not quite legal, but we didn't notice until way after the game was over, so no harm, no foul. But to start with his deployment, he went on the other side of this river and set himself up 2 Sea Guard Reapers right there on the left. Then on this side of the river, he has a Lion Chariot. Next to that is a Reaver Chariot. Then he has a unit of 25 Sea Guard with full command. With them is his commander, which is his Battle Standard Bearer. He has Shield, the Fleet Officer, Honor, Mithril Mail, and the Sword of Strength. Then on the other side of his fence there, you can see the sloop. And then he has a unit of 10 Highborn Lancers with full command and the War Standard. And with them is his general, Alora Victus, the mage, level 4 spells to Pyromancy. She's a wizard master on an elvish horse. So, for my side, first unit here on the left are the Purple Shields. They are the youngest unit of clan warriors in the Whitehammer clan. There are 15 of them. They have full command and hand weapon and shields. Next to that is a unit of 15 Forge Wardens. They have full command as well. Within them, on the right corner, is Kale Steelcaster, the Runic Smith. He has the Rune of Oaths, the Rune of Reckoning, and the Rune of Resilience. He also has an arcane item with the Rune of Devouring and a Runic Talisman with the Rune of Dragon's Breath. Behind that is a Steam Copter. Then next to that, we have the Greybeards, a unit of 18. They have great weapons and full command. Hanging out with them is Thane Gimrick Ironhelm, my battle standard bearer for the Whitehammer clan. He has hand weapon and shield, and the runic armor with the Rune of the Mountains on it for an extra point of toughness. He also is bearing the runic standard of shielding. And all the way on the right is my King's Guard. There is 20 King's Guard in that unit with full command. And with them is my general for this battle, Queen Eldath Whitehammer, a Thane with, she has a shield, runic weapon with the Rune of Might, and runic armor with 1 Rune of Iron and the Rune of Steel, so she's got a 2-up rerollable armor save. So, Michael actually won the role to deploy first, and actually only put down one of his units, the Spearman in the center. So I decided to go ahead and drop the rest of my army and get the first turn. Figuring that my guys were approaching first, it made sense to me. So I went ahead here. I didn't want to give up my shooting, so I just advanced. I did not march. I'm worried about a lot of these chariots. I went with pretty small units in terms of bodies, and a couple of these chariots get into any one of these units, and the impact hits are going to be a big problem. So I want to give the Forge Wardens a chance to shoot the chariots on the left, and I'm kind of just throwing the copter forward to get in the way of those horsemen and the Sky Sloop chariot. I don't really have an answer for that, so I'm really kind of entering a delaying tactic at this point. During my magic phase, the only spell I got off was giving Stubborn and Immune to Psychology on these guys on the right, or the left. Not really much of a reason to do it, but I figure I would at least start throwing some magic just to see what happens. With my shooting being garbage, we go to the Highborn Elves turn 1, and he's coming up hard. He's putting a lot of pressure. He doesn't really want to come into the King's Guard in the front, so I think what he's going to do is try and sneak around me with those horsemen, which he certainly can do because I just really don't have the movement to keep up with them other than just kind of swift reforming in place over and over again as he tries to circle me. And then over here, he's got the 2 chariots coming forward, and they kind of Tokyo drift in front of the river. He certainly has me worried, because like I said, the impact hits are really what I'm afraid of, because I got no answer to them. And 2d6 plus 1, if both these chariots hit something, is enough to really cripple one of my units. But then he shows me I probably should have been more afraid of magic at this point, because Alora Victus drops a Enveloping Embers on my Greybeard unit, which is 19 strength, 3 flaming attacks. I figured, I can handle that. And I was wrong. He ended up dropping 5 guys, basically peeled the back rank plus off of the Greybeards there, and that was very, very sad. But then he throws his shooting. He ends up shooting the. It was either shoot. This might have been his fireball, actually. But anyway, he tries to hit the copter. I end up having 2 5-up. No, this must have been shooting because I've got the 2 5-up ward saves because I'm within 6 inches of the banner, and I roll both of them, so he can't actually kill my copter. Yay! And then these archers on the back of this freaking chariot on the right end up shooting 2 arrows, apparently into the eye socket slots of the armor on the Forge Wardens, and kill 2 guys with strength 3 arrows. I was just like, oh my god. Because I can't afford to have this unit thinned down before it can do some business, and to have him go 2 for 2 on strength 3 arrows just hurt my pride. So we go to Dwarven Hold's turn 2. At this point, I figure I've got to get into something. He actually has me in range shooting by a lot. He didn't succeed in much this turn, but that whole unit of Sea Guard back there can fire, so it's like 25 shots plus the grand total of 3 bolt throwers, 1 on the sloop and 2 on the other side of the river there. So I just need to start getting into something. So I'm starting to move up to just see what he's going to let me do. And over here, I turn just slightly because I know he's going to try and bring these chariots into something, and I can't let that happen. What I didn't realize while I was doing this is the break I make where my Forge Wardens and the Greybeards are, I essentially kind of push them out too far. So right between those 2 units, there is actually enough room for him to get his chariot on the right in there, and he doesn't need much to do it. He only needs like an 8 on the dice to end up slamming that chariot into the flank of my great swords, or great weapon Greybeards, and just, I didn't see it coming. And here, I guess this is magic. I might have gotten a -1 to wound off on the great, the great weapon wielders. And so we go into shooting. My Forge Wardens do very well and end up putting 3 wounds out of 4 on the chariot on the right. Pretty good. I'm still figuring he's probably going to charge, or at least my thought was he was going to charge the Forge Wardens, and so now I'm thinking if I stand and shoot against that chariot, I can do 1 wound on it. So that makes me feel a little safer. And then we go into Highborn Elves turn 2. He actually brings the Lion Chariot into my purple shields down here, and he goes for the long charge against my great weapon guys with his other chariot and botches the crap out of the roll. I think he goes forward 2 inches. On 3 dice, he rolled a 4 or 5 on the charge range and just didn't get it, which is awesome because it gives me another turn to shoot him. And I'm actually thinking, with this fight with the Lion Chariot, as long as he doesn't just do a stupid number of impact hits, I'm thinking the 5-up ward save could let me hold him. And that's really all I need to do. I just need to keep this chariot out of the fight, because if he's allowed full free reign to just cause all sorts of trouble, I don't have an answer to it. Then again, he decides that he's just going to put the pressure on, runs up his horsemen up here on the side, and now he's got beautiful flank charges if I don't do anything, and the sloop kind of Tokyo drifts a little bit. For those of you who are particularly observant, you'll notice that he's actually mixing High Elf and Dark Elf units here in terms of models from the old GW line. That's kind of purposeful. The whole idea of this elf army he's putting together is essentially under the control of the Highborn Elves, but it's kind of a renegades from various sides, kind of working in a more mercenary idea. So he's utilizing different models at different points just to get that point across. And then over here, his archers or his sea guards start coming up. Again, he's going to pepper me with a billion shots, but he wants to put some pressure on that middle since his chariot didn't actually get its impact. Then Allura Victus starts throwing more fire. She ends up hitting the King's Guard with 2d6 strength 4 flaming hits, but only kills 3 of them this time, which apparently proves that for this game, if you want to kill dwarves, you got to go with strength 3. I don't know. And yeah, he does it again. He decides to go ahead and toss down the enveloping embers on the great weapon unit. This time he does it a little worse. He only kills 3 guys, and I decide I've had enough of that, so I trigger the Rune of Devouring on it, and he loses that spell. Over here he does his shooting, hits the copter, but only inflicts a single wound on it, for which I am eternally grateful. And then he gets, I want to say he did the 6 shots with his, one of the 2 bolt throwers there on the King's Guard, but only manages to kill 1. And then he dumps his 25 shots into the Forge Wardens and kills 2 more of them. So we go into combat, and he whiffs the impact hits. I think he kills 1 on impact hits, and my shields hold steady. He only kills 2 more in return. I actually do 2 wounds back to him, so he wins barely, but I am steadfast, and I don't go anywhere. So we go to the Dwarven Holds turn 3. I decide to go ahead and about face my King's Guard. My Great Weapon guys will march around to form a new line there. And I succeed on my march check, so I park the copter within an inch of the front of his horse unit. So now he's got no maneuverability. There's no way he's going to be able to get around me, either to charge either of those 2 units, or really to back off other than just straight back if that's how he wants to go. So I'm pretty happy with that. The longer I can keep those Lancers out of my flanks, the happier I'm going to be. And over here, I slide over just a hair with the Forge Wardens. I am not really sure why. I'm worried about him kind of sneaking through this gap with his Sea Guard, so if they come up any farther, I want to be able to countercharge them. And this was my good turn for magic. I definitely thought that the purple shields here needed buffing, so I went ahead and got a couple of spells off on them. They are -1 to wound now, and they reroll to hits in close combat, which is awesome. And then I open fire on this freaking chariot. I hit 5 times. I need 3s to wound, and you can see here I rolled 4 2s and a 1. So this chariot sitting at 1 freaking wound is still the bane of my existence. And we go into combat, and the buffs help. I get 1 more wound on the chariot, but I'm only down to 6 up shield wall now. So even with the buffs, he gets 2 more kills through. I lose... No, I don't lose the battle because I've got a standard here. He might have lost this one, or it might be a tie. I don't recall, but either way, nobody's going anywhere. So we go to the Highborn Elves turn 3, and he declares a couple of charges. The first one is needing, I think, an 8 or a 9 to get this chariot into the back of my great weapons. And again, Michael's dice luck just fails him, and he goes forward another 3 or 4 inches, failing the charge. However, he succeeded on the other one. He threw the sloop into the front. His ultimate aim was doing the 2d6 impact hits, figuring he was going to kill the unit. Now he's in trouble, because he's going to get a d6 impact hit, but then he's got to deal with 2 ranks of dwarves with great weapons, as well as a character in there, and this was probably not the... Well, it was a decent call if he had succeeded with both charges. Certainly looks a little less promising now with just the sloop in there. And then he decides, he succeeds the march roll to have Honora Victus leave the protection of her riders and run like hell way over here to my flank so that he doesn't run the risk of getting her killed and can fireball me willy-nilly. Over here, realizing that he's in trouble, decides to go ahead and march up, or I don't think he marched up, he moves up the archers so he can do some more shooting. But now he's got good charges on pretty much everything in this area. And in comes some fire. 2d6 strength 4 flaming hits will peel 3 more folks off of the Kingsguard. You might also be wondering, where's the fireballs? He's not really doing great on the fireballs, so I don't think he's killed anything with it, so I'm not really mentioning them. His archers... No, this actually might be the... I think this is the bolt throwers. Bolt throwers go into, with their multi-shot thing, into the Forge Wardens and manage to kill 3. Then his archers over here shoot into the back of the Kingsguard and kill 2 more of the Kingsguard. So my units are going down quick. I'm starting to get worried at this point whether I've got enough bodies on the field to deal with the large brick of Sea Guard that are coming, much less the 2-up armor saved horsemen that are still on the hill. Over here, we keep going. I can't kill him. I need 1 more wound to get rid of this chariot. I can't do it because my guys are strength 3 against toughness 4. I'm needing 5s to wound. But I'm stopping him from doing a whole lot too. He ends up squeaking 1 more dwarf off, but we don't go anywhere. And then over here, he ends up killing a decent number between the impacts and the attacks. He kills 5 of the great weapon dwarves, but then they just go to work on the sloop and end up chopping it to pieces. Then we go to Dwarven Hold's turn 4. I decide to go ahead and charge with the copter and the great weapon dwarves. He decides not to flee because he realizes rightly if he flees between those 2 charges, I'm going to chase him off the board. So he decides to stick it out and see what happens. Then over here, I decide to swift reform my Kingsguard to see the group coming, and my Rune Lord turns around and marches the hell out of the Forge Wardens towards Honora. My opponent is kind of wondering what the heck I'm doing, because for the narratives, and frankly we usually do this anyway, we play with closed lists. So he doesn't really know what I'm doing. He kind of called me out for wanting to be ballsy and match wizard to wizard, but he really doesn't know the half of it at this point. Because this comes in 2 ways. I am literally at 11.75 inches from the back dude in this great weapon unit, which means I get a magic phase. I give them rerolls to hit in close combat, but I had to throw 4 dice at it to get it off. And because I miscast, I lost the rune. So I'm hoping that it will give me some good mileage here, because I'm not going to use it again. And then during the shooting phase, I pop the Rune of Dragon's Breath and melt Honora Victus, taking out his general and wizard. Super awesome. I needed this. I needed this bad. And then during shooting over here, I finally take out this freaking chariot. It only took 4 turns of strength 5 shooting to do it, but I finally got it. And over here, combat goes on. I still can't kill his chariot. I lose one more dwarf. It goes. Over here, I end up killing 3 of his riders. He kills nothing of mine. He ends up breaking. I restrain with the great weapons, thinking I can turn them around and go kind of help. And I chase with the copter. The copter fails to catch them by a single inch, and they end up a couple inches from the edge of the board. So no bueno there. And he's probably going to be able to rally them on a leadership 9 come next turn. And here you see the great weapons with Thane Gimrick turn around and stand upon the hill to see the coming elves. So we go Highborn Elves turn 4. He ends up charging my Forge Wardens. I decide to stand and shoot, and I get nothing. My ability to shoot is nothing short of horrific. And he's going to hit me with this whole unit, and it's going to be a bad day for some dwarves, I think. So he's got no real shooting to do, no magic anymore. So we go into combat, finally hit with no spells and whatnot. The Lion Chariot gets one up on the purple shields, gets them down to a single rank, breaks them, but then fails to catch them by an inch. So they are chilling here, and the Lion Chariot is, frankly, too close to them to turn on anything else. So I'm kind of okay with that for the moment. The Spearmen make very short work of the poor Forge Wardens and break them. However, they are at 4 men remaining, which is greater than 25% by 1 model. So they run. He decides not to pursue because he doesn't want to get in a situation where he's going to open up his flank to the charge from the King's Guard. And I can't say that's a terrible idea. So my guys don't run very far and end up standing where you see them. So Dwarven holds turn 5. My queen decides no guts, no glory, and she sure as heck isn't backing down from a bunch of pansy elves. So she declares a charge. The King's Guard make it and are face to face with a veritable army of Elven Spearmen, or Sea Guard, I'm sorry. My purple shields fail to rally and run. They are an inch or 2 from the edge of the table with that, so that's not good. But the Forge Wardens do rally, and they turn around here, so I can shoot pretty much anything that I need to shoot, not that there's a wealth of targets left over. And up here, Kale Steel ends up joining my now rallied unit, and then casts a -1 to wound on the King's Guard, which is epic, because now with their spears, the elves are needing 6s to wound these guys, and that might keep them alive for a while. Then you see my great weapon guys move up so I can make sure everybody is in a nice reroll bubble in case things go bad. And I don't want to say things went bad. 4 of the King's Guard get killed, but as you can see, I kill about half the unit of spearmen. This includes a challenge that my queen threw out, and his champion chump blocked, and I murdered him with 2 overkill. He loses this bad, but then not by enough to make it an auto break, and rolls double 1s to keep himself in battle. Highborn Elves turn 2. The Lion Chariot decides to charge the purple shields, runs them off the table, and then follows them off the table, which is awesome because it means he's not coming back on the board until turn 6, and there ain't crap else he can do to hurt me. He didn't have a line of sight to charge the back of these guys because of the hill, so he decides to march them. I had moved my copter out of the way kind of stupidly to just try and shoot them and harass them, which gave him the opportunity to charge this. I didn't take a picture of it last turn. Or not charge this, march this. So now, for turn 6, my great weapon guys are going to be dealing with those lancers, and there's not a whole hell of a lot I can do about it. And we go to combat, and combat is beautiful. He kills one more hammerer, and I kill all but 5 of the unit. And the challenge this time between my queen and his character goes very well. He does not hurt the queen, and I inflict 2 wounds on him. They break and run off, but again, dwarves have very stubby legs, and I can't catch anything this game. So he's running, I follow, and the problem is now I'm within sweet range of getting shot by those bolt throwers that are hiding on the other side of the river. So we go to Dwarven Holds turn 6. I try to go for some cheap points and charge him. He runs like crazy. I fail the charge and end up like you see here. I decide to go ahead and Swift Reform and back up a little bit. And Swift Reform the Forge Wardens so that I can maybe try and shoot something and make this incoming charge a little less painful. And in comes the chopper, but I was stupid with him last turn, so he had to march this turn so he doesn't get any shooting. I end up killing one of his riders with shooting, but that was it. So Highborn Elves turn 6 brings the pain right in the great weapon wielders' faces. Back in comes the Lion Chariot with nothing else to do but look pretty. And then these fuckers, they rally. So they rally. I don't know what else to say about it. It makes me sad. The worst part is he has one of those bolt throwers with no cover whatsoever that is just in prime shooting range. And he does just that. He ends up shooting a hole in them. I've only got 3 of them left, the Champion Musician and Standard Bearer, and I fail the panic test due to 25% or more wounds, and they run off. So that gives him the full points for that unit because they're going to be fleeing and below 25%. And sorry for this blurry picture, but I don't do anything to him. I failed horrifically. And he kills all but one of the great weapon wielders. My champion's the only thing left there, and he doesn't touch my character at all, but my character completely whiffed. I end up sticking, though, and yeah, we're pretty good there. So they're not going anywhere. Papers covered the massive oaken table, showing the forces that had collided, and his had stopped the invasion, though barely. Several tall, thin figures surrounded it. However, the most notable was also the one who seemed most on edge, an elf covered in fine silks and gems, their prince, Thal Victus. My prince, another called, bearing the rank of commander. The gall, the absolute gall of those cave beasts. To come here and strike at my kingdom? His heavy fist struck the table. What are we to do, my prince? The commander questioned. He thought for a moment, logic almost seeming to win over emotion, but not for long. As another, a woman, entered the war room, bandaged and weak. The very mage who had fallen earlier, and Thal's wife, Alora Victus. The prince's brow furrowed at the sight of her wounds. Commander Sol, prepare the knights and call forth our ancient friends. We will march against these dwarves and their foolish incursion, and we will bring down their mountain on top of them if need be to answer this slight. With the commander's nod, the prince waved his hand, and the room cleared in moments. Left only was himself and Alora, whom he would dote over, to suppress his rage until the coming battle. So, after an amazing battle and a great start to a narrative, we ended up being in a 10-10 tie. I ended up being up by 200 points, give or take, which was not enough. I needed at least 301 points or whatever it was to get it, and it just didn't happen. This was a great game. If I had to pick a perfect way to start off this narrative and get this story we want to tell going, this pretty much was how it had to happen. I love actually putting together narratively themed teams and having my opponent do the same thing so we're not shit-kicking each other. Admittedly, he had enough shooting where if he wanted to, he could have shot me to pieces and I never would have touched him. But we both played in a way to make the story, and I had a great time. I was pretty surprised at my hammer, or my Kingsguard, sorry. They didn't instantly die to things faster than them, which makes me happy. I still think Dwarven shooting is really expensive in terms of manpower. Certainly the Forge Wardens are better than the core shooting that I used in the last game, but that's not saying a whole lot. They still didn't really accomplish much. Again, it was all in the melee. I think I need to, certainly given that the elves are on the warpath, I will have the opportunity to utilize some more war machines and kind of see where that goes. So I'm looking forward to that. I like my character build, and the fact that the Rune of Dragon's Breath was such a surprise and ended up capping his wizard general certainly is what turned this to a tie, because otherwise, without those points, my opponent would have won, because if I hadn't taken her out, God knows these units are small enough where they would have been fireballed off the board. So I definitely think tactically, the only place that I think my opponent slipped up was sending the Lion Chariot into the Shield Dwarves. The shield wall thing that the Dwarves get is awesome, and parry, I hate the parry rule. I mean, it really worked for me this time, but it's kind of ridiculous that, like, no account low core dudes essentially make weapon skill 5 and 6 people just not matter. Just because they're holding a shield. I just, the rule drives me a little nuts. But it was kind of the best option there for me. I think without that rule, I probably wouldn't have been able to take on that. But that's an arguable point. I don't know. I was having a discussion on one of the other battle reports about the sort of the benefit of that rule. I don't know. It seems weird. I think there's got to be another way you can give a shield bonus that somebody would want to take without necessarily eliminating those essentially making useless those points on elite units that people are paying for. But other than that, it was pretty good. Certainly enjoyed playing it now. The way the narrative is going to run, at least for the next few weeks, because we are one player down in our club, is mainly going to be kind of the beginning stuff here between the elves and the dwarves. We will be introducing other armies as they enter into the story. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this one and enjoyed the narrative kickoff. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, whatever, leave them in the comments below. I'll be more than happy to answer them. Otherwise, thanks you guys for watching, and we'll catch you next time.